Welcome into the First Word presented by Dr. Pepper as the Dallas Cowboys fall in a road battle at Hard Rock Stadium on Christmas Eve. 22-20 off of a game-winning field goal from the Miami Dolphins. Dallas takes the lead late. However, Miami holds on to the football for the final drive, and they have the ball last, ultimately turning into a victory. Miami improves to 11-4. The Dallas Cowboys fall to 10-5. Welcome in to the Star in Frisco, Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton. I'm Kyle Youmans, breaking down what just happened in Miami Gardens. Barry, I'll start with you. This was a game between two good football teams, two playoff caliber football teams, and ultimately there were mistakes made early that Dallas just couldn't necessarily get out of.
Yeah, when you talk about playoff caliber, this was a playoff matchup when you talk about atmosphere in Miami. I mean, the stadium was rocking, both teams going back and forth. It kind of reminded me of a heavyweight fight, you know, a punch, counter punch, punch, counter punch. Both offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators going back and forth. I believe that defensively for the Dallas Cowboys, they played a good game. All right, I will say that. They've done enough to win this game. They did a good job overall of containing Tyreek Hill. I mean, there was some instances out there where he had a deep ball opportunity, but they kind of kept everything in front of him. They let him catch all those, slants and hitches, and it didn't do too much damage overall with the game. It was kind of a bend but don't break system where Miami was able to get what they wanted in between the 20s, but when they got in the red zone, it was kind of choked up with the Dallas Cowboys. But once again, these penalties reared their ugly head in the wrong situations where it's drive extenders out there, and they let Miami continue getting into the game with these penalties. They got to switch that up. But to me, overall, this team was a good game, was a good battle back and forth, and we'll see what happens going forward. But the biggest play in this game to me happened in the first quarter when Lipke fumbled the ball at the goal line. That ended up being the difference in this game. You can't have those mistakes right in the red zone when you're trying to dive the ball in there. I believe that play call was a little bit too cute. I think they should have just turned around and gave it to Pollard and called it a day. But I'm not a coordinator out here, but overall, I believe that was a good game, and Dallas Cowboys have nothing to hang their head about.
Yeah, this is one heck of a matchup. You were just mentioning in terms of two playoff caliber teams. These guys are both worthy of being in the playoffs. They both are in the playoffs now. So hopefully, we see these guys at the end of the road down there in Las Vegas. But the two areas that really concern me, obviously the one played by Lipke, the fumble, that obviously turned the tide of the game. That's something that's very difficult to overcome. But Dallas did punch back. They put themselves back in this ball game. They were able to overcome that. But the one category that sticks out to me is the third down conversions. We were 4 for 12 on third down. 33% is not going to be enough, especially when you're going toe-to-toe with an offense that has the caliber of these guys.
I like the fact that we held them to 6 out of 13 third downs. Yeah. We won the time of possession battle, 31 minutes. I like that our defense played well, but I just, for the life of me, stop with the penalties. 2 offsides by our tight ends. Mm-hmm. Another late hit by Parsons there. That hurts. And then with the Lipke deal at the beginning, man, y'all played too well on the road and against a fast and powerful and speedy team to come up short. This should not have happened tonight.
That's the thing, is this defense allowed 1 touchdown, 1 for the entire game, and you lose giving up 22 points. It was a bend, don't break mentality. They gave up plenty of yardage. Mm-hmm. Miami worked fine between the 20s, and then once they got into the red zone, they stalled out, and they just had to settle for field goals along the way. Where do you start with the defensive side of the ball? Did they provide enough for you to build confidence going into Detroit next week, going into playoff games on the road? Because that's a unit of your team that you're built around. The strength of it is the pass rush. Did they do enough?
I think they played better when you talk about staying in your gaps and run responsibility. I believe they did a better job of holding Mostert, holding Achane. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, you did.
Achane, to make sure that they weren't able to get too much explosion on them. But to me, I still feel like this, and I felt this from back when they first put him into the lineup. That second level, those linebackers, I believe, are just too small. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. Those linemen get into the second level. The camera angles they provided us at Fox were amazing because we've seen everybody get pancaked out there, all right? Damone Clark, you've got to be able to use your hands out there. Giving too much space right there to these offensive linemen, it's just physics. 300 pounds versus 230 pounds is not going to work in your advantage. You've got to use your hands. And Bell as well, you got to use your quickness out there. There's just too many opportunities where they're getting to the second level and running backs aren't getting touched until they get to their level, or the second level, which is 5 yards down the line of scrimmage. We've got to improve improve on that second level. I don't know how you do that without bringing somebody in, but we've got to improve on that with going forward with this Dallas Cowboys defense.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Now, I'm not going to necessarily harp on the linebacker's size, but if you could dodge a wrench, you could dodge a lineman. And that's what they got to try to figure out is one thing. You know, we all have played the game, and you have to be able to shed blocks, right? There's a thing called shocking somebody. You got to be able to shock the offensive lineman and then get your hands free and try to dip and rip underneath them so that you can get to one side of them. But going right down the middle is not a solid strategy. The defensive line has to do a better job of not allowing those offensive linemen up to that second level. But if they do present themselves, you have to find a way off those blocks. But overall, very proud of the defense's job today in terms of the run support. Okay, these guys only allowed 91 yards on the ground. That was a 3.5-yard average against the number 4 rushing team in the league that had 3 running backs that were all very capable. So very good job by the defense in that regard. I think they did a great job of pressuring Tua. Tua was off his game today because of the pressure the defense was applying on him. Yep. Micah Parsons was out there like a crazed dog. Aside from that penalty that was called, could have been gone either way depending on what side of the fence you're watching from. But he was applying pressure. DeMarcus Lawrence had a day. For all those that are trying to look and see who the defensive MVP is right now, I know Micah Parsons has done a lot in the stat line, but you want to talk about somebody who's impacting the game in a major way, you have to look at big 9-0. DeMarcus Lawrence needs to get more respect.
Tua was off. He was 24 for 37, and we just talked about the whole game, how he was off, how he was missing guys. That's because D-Law was continuing to apply pressure along with Michael Parsons. The run game, you should have saw DeMarcus Lawrence just taking about 3 and 4 guys. This is what we expect from Mozzie. This is what we expect from Neville Gallimore. Take up 3 or 4 guys so these linebackers can have a chance. This is how the defense design is not going to change. We got small linebackers, and we need for our interior guys to do what DeMarcus Lawrence did today. But like I say, Tua had happy feet all day. I mean, he don't have numbers like this. 24 for 37, he was off today.
Yeah. Now, let's flip to the offensive side. There were times where the offense did exactly what they wanted to early in the game. You go all the way down. You mentioned the Hunter Lemke fumble, but up until that point, phenomenal drive, double-digit drive. You get down to the goal line, you have the turnover. Then you turn back around, you score on the next drive with CeeDee Lamb, 49-yard touchdown. But then they go dormant for nearly 2 full quarters, and you have to settle for a couple field goals here and there. Then they wake up again at the end. What did you think about the offense as a whole?
We go through this every week. 4 weeks ago, I thought it was cool. It's not cool anymore. Tony Pollard is the man. If he's injured, let us know. We can stop promoting him. But Tony Pollard, every time he gets in the game, he's a dominant runner. He's a dominant catcher. We have to find ways to get that ball to Tony Pollard and more to CeeDee Lamb. I like the other guys. Cook, great player. Ferguson, I love you. But we got to find a way to get CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard the ball.
CeeDee Lamb was off to a great start. You talk about this offense really getting these things going off the line in the beginning of the game, and they did so. But you mentioned they went dormant, and that's because Vic Fangio did a great job of making alterations. They were giving free releases to CeeDee Lamb, and they said, no more of that. They started having somebody walk up there, whether he was out on the boundary or whether he was in the slot, and they started disrupting his ability to get off the line of scrimmage with a free release. And what that did was allow for the defensive line to go hunt, and that's exactly what they started doing. They were applying pressure on Dak. Dak was fighting for his life. Play in and play out. The offensive linemen were trying to do what they could, but that we knew going into this game, this team was the 3rd best pressure team in the NFL, number 1 being Dallas. These guys were number 3, so we knew they were going to have an opportunity. As soon as they started disrupting CeeDee Lamb's ability to get off the ball, then it was on and popping for those guys, and they had a chance. In terms of Tony Pollard, how many times have we sat up here and said Tony Pollard's had 12 touches? Tony Pollard's had 13 touches. Majority of the year, right? You know how many touches he had tonight? 12 on the ground, 1 in the air. 13 touches again for Tony Pollard. This dude he's having success on the ground, but you have to give him a chance to get rolling. Every time he gets rolling, we turn around, Lipke getting the ball. When he gets rolling, all of a sudden we turn around, Rico's getting the ball. You cannot be a feature back in this league only getting 12 touches. I don't know how else we got to say that, but I know Barry will back it up.
Yeah, I'm going to back you up 100% on that one. And when he does get these opportunities, these 12 runs he has, it's in between the tackles. I mean, time and time again, this is one of the fastest players on your team. Let him hit those edges. Let him get these screen passes. Let him get those bubble screens. He's got to be able to touch the ball more than 12 times. And in the passing game, he played receiver in college. Let the guy go out there and do what he does by catching the football as well. One catch in this game, one target. It's just not enough for Tony Pollard out there. He's got to go out there and get the football more often. But when you look at this offense, like you said, I think it was inexcusable for CeeDee Lamb to have, 93 yards in the first quarter and then not get another catch until almost through the third quarter? Yeah. To me, that's inexcusable right there. You got to find a way to get one of your best playmakers, if not your best playmaker, the ball when the opportunity arises. And this offensive line, man, we missed Tyron Smith today. We did. Yeah. We missed Tyron Smith today. There was a lot of pressure on Dak Prescott. 4 sacks, but there was a lot more pressure throughout the entire game. We missed 77. Hopefully he's back next week.
I want to hit that offensive line in just a moment, real quickly, just to follow up. You talk about the numbers. The numbers on the box score are never going to look good in a game like that for Tony Pollard. 12 carries, 36 yards, but it's more than that. It's about getting him rolling, yes. Right? It's about a rhythm from a ball carrier standpoint. How much does that play a factor?
It plays a huge factor because you got to get in the rhythm of the game, like you just said. When you go out there and you're getting these 2 carries and it's third down, let's bring you out, that's going to throw you off a little bit out there. And as a running back, just like an offensive lineman, you got to feel that going into it. You got to get that aggression out of it. You got to feel how this defense is hitting, how they're reacting to you. And when you get in a carry here, maybe a catch there, you're not going to get that rhythm and you're going to be out of there.
Yeah, and it seemed like there was never really a time for Tony Pollard to establish that rhythm on the road. And there was a rhythm that needed to be established up front, too. We mentioned the offensive line. Tyron Smith, he certainly missed. Chuma Edoga did what he could, but it looked like there were multiple miscommunications. There were multiple times where just free releases, free runs at Dak Prescott, and that's something that cannot be happening if you're going to want to be successful on offense. Isaiah, what did you see up front from this offensive line and the way that they filled the gaps against this Miami front seven?
I think it was one heck of a battle. I think it's unrealistic to expect Chuma Edoga to really go out there and have a positive game against Bradley Chubb. That's just an unrealistic goal. You could be hopeful, you could be wishful, but the reality is Bradley Chubb is a freaking dude. Wilkins is an absolute dude. This, again, one of the top 3 pass rushing teams in the league, and you're playing with your backup. All you can do at that point in time is hope that he has the game of his life, and that's exactly what he tried to do. But unfortunately, he went up against a more superior player, and Bradley Chubb got the best of him today.
They gave him a look that kind of confused our left tackle there. What they did was they shot a guy 5 yards off the line inside the B gap. Yeah. And what they did there was they would fake him up and drop him back, and right before the snap, they would bring him. And a lot of times I would bring him late, and that would give Bradley Chubb a free run to the outside, and he was hitting the quarterback. So what they had to do at halftime is just make that adjustment. Hey, son, just stay out. Tony, you step up, or Lipke, you step up, get in close to the line and just step up, and you take that inside guy. So that could be worked out, but they seemed to didn't work it out. They did that the whole game. Then they took it to the right side and did it to the right to steal. So that one little tweak threw the offensive line off, and it made a hell of a battle for him.
And what Nate's alluding to right now is Vic Fangio. Shout out to him. I mean, he did a great job, right? Once a defensive coordinator is able to diagnose what you're doing responsibility-wise as an offensive line, okay, in terms of pass protection, now you can start messing around with them, right? What he just alluded to is saying, hey, those guys walked the guy up because they knew that Chuma Edoga, by his responsibilities, has to take that man. So as soon as they slide down, now all of a sudden you have your better pass rusher that has a no man's land, okay? He's able to just have a free runner on your quarterback.
And I understand adjustments. I get all that. I get the adjustments. But you can't get outworked out there. How many times did we see Van Winkle, am I pronouncing it? Yeah. Going out there using that motor. He's not the most talented, athletic, gifted edge rusher there is, but he has a motor, and he was outworking a lot of those guys out there. If you're going in there, you got to provide better effort out there. I understand the adjustments, but you can't get outworked consistently.
Yeah, you got to overall have more consistency. I think that's the number one thing for this team right now is consistency across the board, offensively, defensively. Special teams, you've had it for the most part. Brian Anger, Brandon Aubrey, they did their job. Even Turpin was contributing on offense for the most part. But this is a team that has questions. You answered a couple in this game. I think you have some things to build on, but ultimately it ends up in a loss. We've got more Cowboys post-game reaction as we leave you with the final stats brought to you by Miller Lite. Cowboys OT and Cowboys game night here on this Christmas Eve. Happy holidays, Cowboys Nation. It doesn't end up starting on the right foot as the Cowboys fall on the road against the Miami Dolphins 22-20. For Barry, Isaiah, Nate, I'm Kyle Youmans. That does it for the First Word presented by Dr. Pepper.